This is Orlando Sentinel Now.
Hello, it's Tuesday, February 22nd. If you write that down, 22222. It's a pretty good one. It's only fitting that I have two people here with me today. I have Kevin Spear and Ryan Gillespie. And today we're going to talk about the Wekiva River, three bridges built in a manner to help protect the delicate ecosystem underneath. Also, we're going to talk about Parramore joining Orlando's Main Street program. We'll find out what that means. We're going to start here with Kevin Spear. So Kevin, three bridges over the Wekiva River. Environmentalists have been championing this project for a while. What sets them apart and makes them different?
Yeah, it's too bad it wasn't two bridges, right? With your
Yes,
intro.
right.
These bridges are a moment of history that we can all observe, and both from afar with our reporting, but also you can go there, and I suggest you do. These bridges cross the Wekiva River, and there aren't many bridges that do that, and it took decades to get these things built, and they'll open to traffic soon.
So tell me about the safeguards that these bridges have put in place and how they are different and protect the bottom underneath there.
Yeah, in short, they're just really big. The bridge that these three bridges will replace is the old State Road 46 bridge. State Road 46 runs between Mount Dora and Sanford and crosses the Wekiva River. And the bridge there at the Wekiva River had a massive amount of pilings in the river, literally in the river, and it was low. And if you paddled underneath, you could touch the bottom of it. These new bridges are huge. Their main span is 360 feet. So the legs don't touch the river at all. And the spans are 50 feet above the river. In other words, there's an enormous amount of space that the bridge provides for the river beneath.
Yeah, tell me about paddling underneath it. You had a chance to go and kayak underneath it. Does it feel like it does what they set out to do as far as to hide it and protect it?
So I've paddled along the Wekiva River countless times, and including when the old bridge was there, and it was clearly an eyesore. These new bridges are so huge, so monumental, you can't help yourself but to stare at them when you pass beneath. I describe it in the story I've written recently as a kind of a cathedral under there. Somehow the bridges manage to blend in. They're partly hidden by tree canopies, but because they're so huge and they don't impact the immediate environment of the Wekiva River, it's a little perplexing to explain. You notice the bridges, absolutely, but you kind of don't. So I'm just going to have to suggest that you go see them for yourself. On the other hand, driving across these bridges, you get a quick glimpse of the Wekiva River off to the south. You're kind of up in the tree canopies there. So the glimpse is quick. I suggest, Rich, that you keep your hands on the wheel and your eyes on the road when you do that. Don't try to study it too much.
All right, good advice. Tell me about the national designation of Wekiva River being this protected place. It's unique here in Florida in that it's one of only two. What does that mean?
Yeah, the Wekiva River speaks to a bigger system. There are other creeks, other tributaries that come into the river, and largely they're spring-fed. It is an enormous treasure of spring-fed wetlands and creeks all feeding into the Wekiva River. But at the same time, it's in this vice of Metro Orlando's growth. So there's a tremendous amount of tension between protecting the Wekiva area and allowing for growth around it. And the Wekiva Parkway, the highway, and the bridges that are part of it came about because a lot of people in Central Florida and in Tallahassee, the state capital, recognized the need to cooperate and to compromise and to eventually get this thing built. And they did. And in the years I've covered the environment, in the end, it was an amazing display of cooperation that I don't think could happen again today. And a lot of other people believe that today's politics just would not allow the kind of action that took place for the Wekiva Parkway 20 years ago.
All right, well, you can read this story right now on OrlandoSentinel.com. And I have to say, Kevin, nice job on those photos as well. Really cool seeing underneath. And I know that was while you were paddling, so great stuff there. Moving forward here to Ryan Gillespie. So Ryan, Parramore will be joining Orlando's Main Street program. What does that exactly mean and what does it entail?
When you think about some of the more popular places in Orlando that people talk about, whether they like to get dinner in Thornton Park, if they they like the trees and the butterfly gardens and things like that, in Audubon Park, or the shopping in Ivanhoe Village, all of those names are Main Street districts. They're basically like a branding that's put on some of these neighborhoods that really help kind of elevate their profile and grow small business and things like that. And so Parramore is going to be next in line with the city, or is next in line. The city voted on it on yesterday at a city council meeting, and really what that does is it dedicates grant funding and staffing into the neighborhood by way of an executive director, and there's a volunteer board that's kind of priority is elevating that neighborhood. And so that's kind of the next step in the city's efforts in revitalizing Parramore.
Yeah, obviously a historical Black community here in Orlando. It almost seems like a no-brainer, but this area obviously has had a lot of issues, and stemming from race issues. Even I-4 construction really paid its toll on this area. So what is this? Is this a chance to come back, or to help it at this point?
Yeah, Paramore it's a fascinating kind of historical community when you really look back at where it's come from. It was built in the 1880s by a former Orlando mayor named James Parramore, who was a former Confederate general or captain, excuse me. And really, at the time, it was built as a place where Black families could live near the white people who they worked for. Orlando was segregated at the time. African Americans weren't allowed to live in kind of the more well-to-do neighborhoods on the east side. But really, the community grew and flourished. Duke Ellington famously stayed in one of the hotels in Parramore, and it was kind of a hub of culture. It grew to 18,000 residents, which is kind of amazing when you think about the amount of people who live there now. But really, when I-4 was built and 408 was built, if you think about how they are today, that kind of intersect right there in Parramore. That and some of the other development pressure east of the highway, it really forced people out of Parramore. The population fell over like a 50-year period. It fell by like 65%, down to 6,000 people. It's fewer than that now. The median household income is very low compared to the rest of the city, and we know the city as a whole has its own kind of wage issues. So the median income is $18,000 there. Citywide, it's $44,000. So there's certainly, as you said, a lot of issues in Parramore. But it's also kind of become this key city priority. If for some of you who have been around way longer than I have, it's one of revitalizing Parramore is what Mayor Buddy Dyer ran on like 20 years ago when he became mayor. But really what this is it's kind of, when you think about Main Streets, it's kind of like a more holistic approach to growing an economy. You're not, Main Streets aren't focused on like building Creative Village and Amway Center and things like that. It's on, bringing grocery stores and restaurants and things really for residents and small businesses and things like that locals really enjoy is kind of the easiest way to look at it, I think.
Yeah, you mentioned some of the big Creative Village, the Exploria Stadium. As far as like what is considered Main Street, is there a drag that is considered the Main Street, or is it just encompassing the entire area?
It's really the district. I think they see Parramore Avenue over there as kind of a potential kind of main drag, but generally what they're considering the Main Street, and there's some carve outs and stuff like that, but generally it's from Colonial on to the north, basically to South Street to the south, and from Westmoreland to Huey. There's some carve outs really where like the neighborhoods and stuff are, because it's really more of a commercial focus. So that will include the Amway Center, which I would imagine the area outside will be used for like programming, because Main Streets are big on events, and Exploria Stadium the same way, and Creative Village as well. But really their focus, I think, is going to be trying to bring things to Parramore that they don't have. And when I say that, it's very simple things on the front end. There's no grocery stores in Parramore. There's not really pharmacies in Parramore, and these are really basic things that people need and want. So I think that'll kind of be the early focus.
Could I pipe in here for a minute?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
I still do bicycle around Parramore, and it's, as you pointed out, the population is down, so the traffic's down, and it's a pleasant place to ride a bike around. I am still today astounded that the city allowed for the construction of a soccer stadium in Parramore, but not just in Parramore, but in the middle of Parramore Avenue. And I'm wondering, well, when you think of the main drag aspect, how is that stadium looked upon? As a hindrance or as a bonus?
I don't think you would hear many, if any, people in the actual city hall consider that to be a hindrance. That was something that they really wanted. They really see and would like to see Parramore kind of be this community where I guess it would be on the south side, really where the stadiums and venues and stuff like are. It's kind of like a entertainment center. We know the Magic are building that, or supposed to be building that like $1 billion complex over there. And, I think they would like to see that area kind of be this kind of entertainment hub and like an extension of downtown. But also, as somebody told me involved with this Main Street, if you think of how close Parramore is to Church Street and kind of like the main downtown hub, they couldn't really be closer, and they also couldn't really be any more different. So I think also this is going to be, trying to help Parramore kind of establish its own identity and its kind of own place. These main streets are kind of funny because the last time I wrote about one was Curry Ford West, which is the stretch of Curry Ford in the Conway area, really from like if you think of the Hourglass District up to Conway Road. And when I wrote about that, the story was this whole concept of like, we're this kind of like really cool part of town, but like we don't really know what we are. We're trying to form our identity. Parramore's identity is well established, right? Like it's a historical community. It's on the National Register of Historic Places. It's basically everybody who lives in Orlando is generally aware of what Parramore is. This is trying to establish really and help tell the story of where it's come from and kind of its historical Black history and things like that. So it's kind of like it's really kind of an interesting niche within this whole kind of Main Street program that they've got.
All right, well, good stuff there. You can read about Ryan's story right now on OrlandoSentinel.com. Appreciate that. Also, go to OrlandoSentinel.com/subscribe. Become a subscriber. We always do appreciate you supporting our work. There's a lot of good work up there from our colleagues. Go ahead and check that out. But for us, we're going to go ahead and push pause and call quits for today. Until next time, I'm Rich, Ryan, and Kevin. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.
Watch Orlando Sentinel Now live every weekday at noon on our Facebook page and on OrlandoSentinel.com.